I thought that my past was finally behind me, but the last few weeks have left me questioning everything. I, 30 male, am happily engaged to my beautiful fiance. I have a good job. We have a little house of our own and couldn't wait to get married and start a family of my own. But my life hasn't always been smooth. In my teens, I was pretty much a train wreck. When I was 19, I got my then girlfriend pregnant. We were not expecting this, but she decided to keep the baby. We got married and she gave birth to twins. I felt ashamed to say this now, but I acted very poorly. I started drinking heavily. Most days, I didn't even come back home. It was all a huge mess, and I regret it terribly now. We were married for just 7 months, and my ex decided that she had enough and told me she wanted to divorce me and that she was moving in with her parents. She was understandably very angry at me and said that I would never see her or our kids again. We got divorced over 10 years ago, and I'm glad to say that I've cleaned up my act since then. I'm 6 years sober now and deeply regret how I acted back then. It's been a tough 10 years for me. After the divorce, I lost everything. My ex-wife got custody of our children, and I was made to pay her child support. I was left with very little and had to start from scratch. To make matters worse, she completely cut me off and refused to let me see my children. I tried everything I could to get custody or at least visitation rights, but every attempt was met with resistance from my ex-wife. The courts took her side because I had a history of alcohol abuse and reckless behavior. I feel terrible for not being there for my kids, but after all this time, I had just accepted that I'll have to live with my guilt forever. I eventually gave up and decided to move on with my life. I started dating again and met the woman who would become my fiancée. We fell in love quickly and decided to get married. I was excited to start a new chapter in my life and put the past behind me. But then, out of nowhere, my ex-wife contacted me. To say that I was surprised to hear from her would be an understatement. She told me that she had cancer and didn't have a lot of time left and wanted me to take custody of our children. She said that she had been thinking about me a lot and realized that she had made a mistake by cutting me out of their lives completely. She said that she wanted me to be a part of their lives again and that it was her dying wish. Initially, I was just in shock. They lived in a different state, and I prepared to travel back and forth a few times before bringing them here with me. I spoke with my fiancée, and thankfully, she was completely supportive. We both agreed that it was the right thing to do, and that we would make it work. We even decided to cancel our wedding to save up and just have a court ceremony instead. I contacted my ex-wife and told her that I was willing to take custody of the kids. But then things started to unravel. The first time I saw her, she didn't look sick at all. I didn't want to assume anything and be offensive, but she became evasive when I asked her for details about her illness. She would only give me vague answers and wouldn't provide any medical records or documentation. The whole thing started to seem really suspicious, and I've been extremely conflicted. I first saw her 3 weeks ago, and after a lot of nagging, she finally shared some scans of her cancer and a few medical reports. I don't know why, but I still couldn't believe her and secretly showed them to a friend of mine who's a doctor. He finally got back to me this morning, and guess what? He said that the scans were taken from Google and the reports themselves look fishy. He said that chances are my ex-wife is just lying about her illness. I am confused and frustrated. I don't understand why she would reach out to me after all this time and make all these claims. It just doesn't make sense. She hasn't asked me for money either, so it doesn't look like she's in it for any financial gain. I've spoken with my fiancée and she thinks I should confront my ex directly. My mind is telling me to just ghost her, but I gotta think of the kids. I don't want them to think I'm abandoning them again. Any suggestions would be appreciated because I'm completely lost. Update 1. Thank you for all your suggestions, people. I really appreciate it. A lot of you asked how my kids have reacted to me meeting them again. I completely forgot to say anything about this in my original post because there was too much going on. So my ex had told them all their lives that I was a bad guy who didn't want to be with them. This hurt me a lot and isn't true, but it doesn't come as a surprise. But when I met them, they were surprisingly nice to me. And apparently that's because my ex had been saying nice things about me recently and told them that I'm a good person now and that I'd take care of them now that she's sick. They weren't friendly by any means, but they were pretty civil, which is honestly more than what I'd expect from kids their age in these circumstances. They're the whole reason why I'm hesitant about doing something, because if they weren't involved, I'd definitely raise hell for my ex for this scam she's attempting to pull on me. As many of you suggested, I've actually spoken to a lawyer who said we have enough grounds to file a lawsuit against my ex-wife for fraud, since she has made up this whole narrative to get out of custody. I'm considering that option, but what I don't want is to drag my kids to court. I can only imagine how they'd feel if they found out their mom is faking an illness to get rid of them. My fiancé is still insisting on me confronting my ex outside of court and coming to an arrangement without getting into what would certainly be a very complicated custody battle. I haven't made the call yet. I'll try to update you guys once I come to a decision. Update 2. I decided to confront my ex first and then decide if I want to go ahead with a lawsuit, and what I discovered is absolutely infuriating. I cannot believe how selfish and evil this woman can be and the lengths she is willing to go for getting what she wants. Since my last update, I thought a lot about my kids and how difficult it would be for them if we went to court. I visited my ex last weekend, pretending it was just another regular visit. She had no idea that I was onto her plan. I went over and said hi to the kids. I then told my ex that I had to discuss a lot of legal stuff and it would be best if the kids weren't there for a bit, so she sent them to the neighbor's place. I then told her that I know what she's been up to. She denied everything, but I told her that I have a doctor willing to testify that her scans were fake. And if she didn't come clean, I would just call up the clinic she forged her reports from, and then she'd have no place to hide. She continued being dramatic and in denial, and I was quickly losing my cool. I told her she had 15 minutes to come clean or else I would leave immediately, and the next time she heard from me would be through a lawyer regarding a lawsuit. This got her in real quick, and she broke down. She started sobbing and said that she had been putting the kids first for all their lives and wanted her own life now. Apparently, she had met some guy from Europe and they were in love, and she wanted to move to his home country and start her life over. She said that she had been keeping tabs on me all this time, and when she saw that I was getting married, it pissed her off because she thought I don't deserve to be happy while she ignores her dreams for the kids. She came up with this insane plan with her boyfriend, and they planned on running away once I officially had custody of the kids. To say I was shocked would be an understatement. I got really angry and asked her how she could even think of abandoning her children and lying to them about something so serious, and she said I had no right to say anything because I hadn't been in their lives in the first place. This was such a low blow because the only reason I wasn't in their lives was that she wouldn't allow it over some stupid grudge and mistakes I made forever ago. I stormed out of her place and have been ignoring her calls and texts since then. I don't really know what's the plan ahead for me. I really want my kids in my life, and I know she won't allow it. At the same time, I want her to face the consequences of this insanity. Update 3. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and I thought I would let you guys know that I'm choosing to take legal action against my wife and get custody of my kids. It's going to be messy, but I don't feel comfortable leaving my kids with someone who had no problem completely abandoning them. My lawyer and her team have been incredible, and they're confident that I have a good chance of winning custody. I just hope that's true. Wish me luck, guys. Your ex is a complete narcissist. I'm glad you decided to go ahead with a lawsuit because your kids truly deserve better. You and your fiance sound like you're up for this challenge, and I'm sure you'll be wonderful parents. Good luck with everything. It baffles me that a mother could even think of abandoning her children for a boyfriend. I understand that she feels resentment for putting her life on hold and being a single mom, but that's literally her job as a mom. I hope the lawsuit wrecks her life because that's exactly what she deserves. Next story. I'll try and keep this short. I had a car for many years, an old Toyota Camry. I owned that car for 8 years. Near the end of my time with this vehicle, I had to start throwing all kinds of money at it to get it fixed. It seemed like I would shell out a few $100 to get it fixed, and then next week something else would come up. Even my mechanic said he was thrilled to have the business, but if I'm bringing my car into the shop every week, then it's not a car worth owning. It was at this time I decided to sell the car. I didn't even really need a vehicle anymore because my job had recently switched to work from home in the midst of the pandemic. I didn't even want to have that car sitting in my parking spot if I couldn't drive it or fix it. So I called one of those we buy scrap cars places. The kind where they send a flatbed to your location and take the car and pay you a few $100 just to take the thing off your hands. I was offered $300 to have my car taken from me that day. As this was going down, my girlfriend told her mom that I was selling my car for $300. She got all hyped up and said they needed a new car for their farm, and if I was going to just get rid of it at random for $300, then I should just sell it to her for the $300 instead. I thought, sure, whatever. I don't care who gets the car as long as I get my $300, so I delayed the scrap car guy and told girlfriend's mom to come over and she could buy the car for $300. Girlfriend's mom came over with $100, said she could get the rest the next day. I said, no deal. I start getting called a cheap prick and that I don't trust her to pay me back. I said, can you do an e-transfer for the remaining $200? And she said she didn't have the money in her account. I said, $300 for a Toyota Camry that still runs is a steal. If you don't have the money right now, I am not going to wait for it. I'll just sell it to the scrapper and be done with it. So that's what I did. Girlfriend's mom is extremely upset that I don't trust her, and I couldn't just wait a day with the car for her. I wanted that car out of my life forever, that day. That's why I sold it so cheap to begin with. In my experience, when you buy a vehicle off someone for less than $500, you arrive at the meetup with the full amount. AITA? I start getting called a cheap prick. This is called projection. She is the cheap one. She was hoping for a bargain, get it for $100 instead of $300, then get mad and insulting when you didn't let her. You would have never seen the rest of your money. NTA. NTA. Actually, you sold the car to a scrap metal company for $300 instead of to your girlfriend's mom for $100. You would have never seen the rest of the money. And if you dared to say something about the missing $200, you would be called, like now, cheap. I start getting called a cheap prick and that I don't trust her to pay me back. Also, if she really wanted to pay more than $100, she would have said, sorry, I really want the car, but I have only $100 now and I will have the rest by X day. As soon as she said she wanted to buy it for $300. After all, she is trustworthy, right? Instead, she came with less and thought you would be too ashamed to say no. Next story. My husband's older brother, Tom, is married to Valerie. Valerie has an 8-year-old daughter who Tom adopted last year. Valerie and Tom are expecting another baby together. Their daughter has suggestions for names for her baby brother or sister, namely names that were nature-themed: wren, dove, lark, river, hawthorn, forest, cove, ocean. My name is actually among one she suggested. My own brother has a bird name along with me, LOL. Tom proceeded to tell his daughter that those were not real names and that I had always disliked, hated my name, and they didn't want their little baby to be the same. He said this in front of me and my husband. My husband thought he was crazy and told him I had never said that. Tom glared at my husband. Then his daughter asked me if I hated my name, and I said I didn't. Valerie said it didn't really matter what I thought, but they didn't want their kid to have a weird name, and she told their daughter they wanted the baby to have a lovely name like she has. Their daughter said she liked my name better and didn't think her name was nice. My husband and Tom's parents were like, let's not insult other people's names, when Tom and Valerie started to protest and reminded them that they were in the presence of someone with one of the so-called ridiculous names. Fast forward a couple of hours, and Tom came over and told me I needed to tell his daughter that names like mine do not work on people, and that I want her to stop wanting a sibling called that and start embracing her name and the name they will give her future sibling. He told me just because I wanted to live like a freak with a weird-ass name didn't mean he wanted that for his kids. I told him he was a lying a-hole for putting words in my mouth and expecting me to do the same. I told him nobody said he needed to like my name, but to insult it, to insult me and then ask me to lie with him was unbelievable. I told him I didn't need to lie for him and wouldn't, and to get out of my frickin' face. My husband and I left almost immediately after, apologizing for leaving abruptly to my in-laws and to our niece. Tom called my husband after and said his daughter could have heard and I was an a-hole for saying what I did to him when she was in the house. My husband disagreed, but I do wonder if I went too far. AITA? NTA. If he didn't want to be called a lying a-hole, he shouldn't have lied and acted like an a-hole. I also have a unique nature name, and I love it. NTA. What the hell is Tom's issue? Tell Tom to take an Xanax. I've seen freaking 9-year-olds being called Naruto. Whatever name they pick will be fine. You did exactly the best way to solve this, OP. Good job. Next story. I, 25, female, have been married to my husband, 29, for a few years now. He has a younger brother who recently got engaged. I've known his brother's girlfriend for 4 years. We're not extremely close, but we hang out whenever there's a family get-together. Anyways, for their bridal party, she asked me to be the maid of honor. She has 4 other bridesmaids composed of cousins and old school friends. I told her that I'm very grateful that she has asked me, but unfortunately, I don't have the time to do all the things expected of a MOH. I just had my first baby in November, and it's a lot. She has expressed wanting a bridal shower, bachelorette party, etc. I told her I can just be a regular bridesmaid. She seemed fine, but afterwards my husband told me that she was venting to my brother and telling him that I'm being cold to her. According to her, she thinks I'm lying by saying I'm too busy because I'm on maternity leave and that I have all the time in the world. And all her other friends work full-time. My husband agrees with me, but his brother called me and said I should try to be accommodating to her. I reconsidered and told her I would be her MOH if she covers half of the responsibilities. Example, planning the bachelorette party. He said he would get back to me. The next day she calls me and asks me why I'm being so difficult. She says I'm the only one in the bridal party not working and that I should step up. I told her again that I'm on maternity leave taking care of a baby, and it is actually even more demanding than full-time work. She ended the call quite upset. AITA for not being accommodating enough? NTA. I mean, what you did was truly a stand-up thing for you to do. You and only you know your capacity, and you know that you would not do a good job. And since you care for the future sister-in-law and want the best for her, you bowed out. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.